Welcome back. Still focusing on implementing the 2016 budget. Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi joins us now. He's a budget historian. Thank you for coming on again today.
Thank you.
Well, some of the key issues being focused on now, the big hurdle of implementation, which has always been an issue year in, year out. But Mr. Son was talking about the fact that all of those intervention funds that has been set up, which of course, intention is to ensure that funds get to the right places, all parts of implementing the budget. He says, look, many of them rarely accessed. And one wonders, if that were the case, we're still going to be in a fix.
Implementing this year's budget and assessing the intervention funds. Yes, we have problems assessing because the funds have not been assessed. That's well said. But that will not in any way prevent the implementation of the budget substantially in the year 2016.
Well, how do you say so?
Don't forget, when we speak about the implementation of the budget, the area that has always been the problem has been the capital side, not the recurrent side, not the payment of salaries, not the payment of budget costs and things like that. Those ones will be done. And that's 70% of the budget. So that 70% of the budget will be implemented. That's 30. So the 30% version, which is the capital side, is the one that may be a little problematic. And of course, I agree with you if you say that's actually the key of it, because the capital budget drives the economy. It drives growth and creates jobs, and that is the side that actually touches most Nigerians. The recurrent side, which is 70%, we actually touch less than 6 million people. And the remainder, 163 million, is the 30% will.
But then when he said that, I thought to myself, I said, well, if that were the case, because I mean, in the financial world, they should know all of this information. How come we haven't heard the authorities speak about this as though, look, if this is a challenge, we need to solve this problem or else we may have more problems?
The reasons, many reasons, but the most important one was that this budget was late in coming. Don't forget, we just had the budget this last Friday. So you don't put the cart before the horse. I think the government will now have a reason to begin to have the political will to call for the assessing of the intervention funds.
The timing of the budget, the ability to fund the budget and the resources available, in your opinion, how far can we go with this?
It will be, to me, it will be above average this year, because this year's budget is not going to be driven by oil. Oil accounts for less than 1/4 of this year's expected revenue. So whatever happens in the oil side, and don't forget it's $38 per barrel, that's our budget expectation. Yes, there have been the prices of oil have been falling, but it has not been falling below the $38 significantly throughout this year. I mean, since January.
So we do have some reasons.
So what we actually have is that we have a reasonable expectation that whatever happens to the oil side of our income will not be significant enough as to tilt the budget away from the predetermined costs.
So why are we running from pillar to post about oil revenue dwindling? Because if that happens, we find ourselves in a very precarious situation. But you say that's not the case.
No, that's not the case. We are actually not running from pillar to post, from pillar to post. Actually, what we are is that we have some apprehension with respect to the tax-driven side of the budget. This budget will be principally driven by loans and taxes. 1.8 trillion naira what had been set out for the capital budget. That's about 30% of that budget, and it will be essentially driven by borrowings.
That's the other side of concern for a lot of people. That part of borrowing, so we have to go borrowing so much, and then the tax side of it, where Nigerians are going to have to pay more. I mean, people residing in the country are going to have to pay more in terms of taxes, especially those who have not been paying. Maybe say they are closing up loopholes, but the ones that have been paying might have to pay more. Isn't that too much of weight to carry in the bid to fund and run this budget?
First, let's clarify this. Government is intending and has advertised that it intends to expand the base of the tax. Not necessarily the quantum, not necessarily the amount of tax you pay, but those who were not previously covered will now be covered as a base. And then second, borrow. And then the third is to block leakages and prevent wastages. And the efficiency unit in the Federal Ministry of Finance is doing perfectly that now. So we are saving money through efficient allocation of resources and blocking wastages. And that's key. That's extremely important because more than a quarter of our income actually go into leakages. They leak out through ghost workers and through you just pay people who are doing nothing. I mean, that's problematic. Don't forget this year, since January, the federal government has been able to prevent about 30,000 people from benefiting from the recurrent budget by way of earning income when they are not doing anything. Ghost workers. Government have apprehended about 30,000 ghost workers. That's important. That's efficiency. So if government is going to rein in these three areas, preventing wastages and ensuring that we expand the tax base, and then borrowing, and our borrowing, of course, it's not dangerous because it's not above our 4% of our GDP.
Expanding the tax base might be a problem because how do you expand a tax base to include all those that are now paying earlier when the basic infrastructure they need to run their businesses are not available? I mean, before you came in, we talked about power supply.
The argument is neither here nor there. Is it the chicken that comes before the egg or the egg before the chicken? You need to tax people to get money to be able to run government. I mean, I think the problem we have had in this country is that we have been tax lazy or tax aversive. You know, there's nowhere in Africa that the VAT rate is as low as we have in Nigeria. But the truth of it is that because we've had oil money pumping down our throat, we've become so lackadaisical, almost lazy enough to think that we don't need to contribute to run our governments. And in any case, you can hardly blame Nigerians in that area anyway, because even that which we earn from oil, how efficiently have we been applying them? That's the issue. So government is now trying to have an efficiency unit to block wastages and leakages, and then request from citizens, please participate in running the government of your country by paying tax.
You know, there's something you said while we're looking at the budget at the start of the year. Specifically, you were here in February and we were talking about the budget, and you said over the years we've been having a system of budgeting which is an incremental system of budgeting, and that as soon as the government decide to say, hey, wait a minute, we're going to have a zero budgeting system.
Yes.
In your words, you said the cat was let out of the bag. Is that what we've been able to get now that this budget has been passed?
Suleiman, you cannot be more correct. See, incremental budgeting system that we've had since 1954.
1954.
1954, we've been running the incremental system until now. At the federal level, I know Lagos State had the zero-based budgeting system for some time now. But at the federal level, we have never had a zero-based budgeting system. Now we want to see that the government says is seizing that and taking on the zero-based budgeting system. Incremental budgeting is the lazy man approach to budgeting. What you do is that you just add up just 10%, 50% of what you spent last year, you just add to this year, and then you budget. What could permit that was slush fund, easy money that came from oil. If people were to be paying directly, and that tax, tax can be very painful. It's like an excision. It's like confiscated. It's like government is confiscating personal income to be able to run the state. So you don't hand money from that taxes and then expect that you use it on an incremental basis. You have to be very sure that every project to be financed must be proved. And that's what zero-based budgeting system is affording us now. And it is very good. I know it is very difficult, tortuous to process it, and it can be very painful to the citizen. But you need the pain to be able to get the gain, and that's where we are. We're on the right path.
So that also helped us in getting off those padding.
Yes, it also prevents. Take for instance, if we had the incremental system and money had been coming from oil, we wouldn't even care less that anybody is padding the budget either on the executive side or the National Assembly side, because you had the money in anyway. But now that money is no longer coming easy, you've got to look at every point, prove every project, so that every 1 naira that is spent in excess of the need for it is sanctioned. Is sanctioned.